All right, welcome to lesson 78, HRAD 223 part-timers. Just finishing up airtime, part 6 of 6, and that's from the Next Level Radio textbook, chapter 9.9, which is Integrated Campaigns 351, page 351 to 355, chapter 9.9.1. There we go. Digital integration 355 to 362. And then we have 9.9.2 activation integration 362 to 367. Once again, you might also recognize that these particular talk points or matter points, subject matter points have been covered in some or other type of in some or other type of aspect, whatever it may be, in previous lessons. But remember that we are looking at them today in terms of or in line with obviously airtime and how obviously this will what's the word I'm looking for now? Uh, just converts it over to money or revenue, right? Okay. So, all right. So let's just close that up. And as you know, I'll read along and explain along as we move along. So, in modern radio campaigns, we know what integrated campaigning is, or integrated media campaigns are, is where we are looking at more than just on air, like an on air approach. We don't only focus on recorded spots anymore, like all types of advertising. We have become a bit more sophisticated and know more ways in which radio stations can create campaigns alongside the online platforms that we do have and on the ground. In other words, like we've seen in the previous slides, the previous session or lesson, we saw and we spoke about outside broadcasts in particular, right? So, integrated campaigns, let's move to the definition of it. Advertising campaigns that utilize more than just on-air products, such as power spots, generic spots, etc., that we have, again, also covered in the previous lesson. Integrated radio campaigns are designed to carefully manage campaign messaging across multiple types of media. So that will obviously include parenting with other media, TV shows, magazines, and obviously in the aim to reach a wider audience and a broader audience. It obviously it equates to value for money for the client, and they are happier because once again, it's not to say that radio isn't effective, but we do have a finite. Let's just look at the terrestrial side of a feeder area, right? We only have a certain amount and also a maximum amount of listeners that could possibly listen or hear campaigns, competitions, promotions, adverts themselves at any one given point, right? Yes, of course, all radio stations are available online as well. So yes, you can also consider the reach globally. But once again, that's not really the best foundation for being able to kind of justify, I would say, monetary value. That's added value as it is to say that someone a couple of people in America and a couple of people in Europe and a couple of people across Africa are listening to our stations, right? All right. And again, and why so? Because if we have to break it down or dissolve it down, ripple it down to the products that we are selling, it's normally, yeah, we're going to buy things locally, right? Nationally or locally here in South Africa. So I just want to discount those, the numbers of people that do listen in terms of online and outside of South Africa. Okay. All right, but definitely social media. Yes, you're going to say to me, yes, we have a lot of people that are overseas, but predominantly we look at when we are trying to build a marketing campaign On social media, we will go and define that campaign to target South African audiences with this interest and that interest that listen to the station at that station. We also look at the followers in our groups, and so we have a wider reach, right? Developing an integrated radio campaign is based in developing a different communication activity, and we have learned now how to do that. And so and it gets better every year that passes by, and the more we understand and the world understands how to use integrated media, particularly with these social media platforms and in a digital space, what conveys a good message or an effective message, and what constitutes as great content, right? That is produced with quality and has a purpose that is fulfilled, a call to action or whatever it may be at the end of the day, right? So this is to deliver a coordinated and consistent message to the audience and achieve the goals that the advertiser has set. So if we want to figure out the following slide that maps out the number of different ways that we can engage with a particular listener, right? And a listener can engage with that particular brand. You're gonna have a look at this. It's more of it's not even an infographic, it's an inferred infographic. We would have YouTube, we have mail, we have obviously likes over here within gaming as well, Wi-Fi capabilities, internet, should I say, well, internet Wi-Fi capabilities, the cloud platforms, right? Messaging, any music related platforms, straight to cell phone or devices, on PC. Right, start particular content, pictures and imaging, recordings or announcements, right? PSAs, whatever it may be, right there, and so on and so forth. I think I've covered kind of everything in between. I want to exclude who no longer use a little birdie for Twitter. Right. Anyway, and then searches, etc. Okay. So it's important to bear in mind that not every radio station or every advertising client will have access to all these particular touch points, and that's okay. You don't have to reach an audience digitally or within the digital realm every single place that you see here, but definitely there's there. Sorry, that's not the phone. This is what is that? What I think that would be email, maybe? It doesn't matter. Actually, no, that's mail. I can't remember what that is. Transfer. That's a cell phone over there or a digital device. Okay. Okay, it's gonna bother me probably, and it's really not important, right? That I know. Okay, it is important, however, that when the radio stations design integrated campaigns, they consider all of the touch points that they have access to and that their market has access to. Okay, so every radio station has numerous digital platforms available to them, and all of these elements provide ways in which the station can increase that revenue, right? It generates for all campaigns as well as increase the size of the audience that campaign has reached. Okay, so again, just one thing that we just must remember is consistency across the platforms, and again, that our brand specifically must have a consistent tone and a consistent expectancy in terms of, like I said again, quality. So we have branding itself that kind of constructs the way that we do things. We have templates that we might use, just to kind of give an example as the rundown to that. Specific lengths of certain times that we might do things, and again, just in terms like of an objective, uh, objectives that are set by like I say, the standards for these posts. We do. Just give me a second here. Again, just excuse me just for that. I know you can't really see the moment that has elapsed, but I needed to just go get some water so that I wouldn't cough incessantly. All right. All right. Originally, Digital and activation opportunities were considered alternative streams of revenue, but as obviously digital media requires an increasing large portion of advertising budgets so that we can do paid for media. And obviously, it's not just the paid for media aspect of it, but there are resources that need to be gathered or attained, whatever it is. Ascertained, I suppose, is a word that we can use there. There might be people that we have to pay. There's production that's involved, and again, that might form part of someone's job at the station, but there are definitely external costs that are involved in being able to constantly produce this and consistently produce this type of output, right? So most South African radio stations estimate that the share of radio advertising spent in integrated and non-traditional space is around 40%. And that comes from Walls in 2019. It's a reference to that claim comes from him or her. I'm not sure whether Walls is a woman or a man. Some claim that this number is closer to 50%, and that's a bit of an eye opener. But it just shows you that yes, it is important, but how important in terms of like how mandatory it has become part of the business construct is so very, 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 very clear and very commonplace, as I said. So very normal, in other words. This means that up to half of all money spent on radio stations is not being spent on generic spot schedules. It represents obviously a major shift from 20 to 25 years ago, where all we really actually did or expected from those clients when a generic radio campaign was believed to be the only way to use our medium effectively. If we go now, because we're going to break it down, and that's how we'll obviously end this particular subsection with airtime. Going back to outside broadcast, the rise of social media and advertising means that we can have engagement that advertisers desire. So advertisers want the same return on investment, the same level of meaningful engagement that they believe they can achieve with social media advertising. And as radio is focused around intimate engagement between listeners and presenters and personalities, it works well actually with what social media is all about. So in the past, stations restricted advertisers to only making use of pre-recorded advertising that was obviously scheduled in like obviously in a spot break or whatever. This keeps the line between advertising and editorial content very, very separate and stagnant, which is fine. It worked where it worked, and obviously we still have a space and a place for it, in our current time and age and day, right? So, however, brands and businesses are increasingly becoming part of our content consumption. Radio stations have now aligned to and allowed the line to blur. So if we have a look at some more, just easy, I say straightforward facts. That's why I'm just reading through. Very interesting. The days where you should or one could shout out generic messages at hundreds of thousands of listeners, often with falsely differing interests and psychographic profiles, right? So remember, we spoke a long time ago about the difference between a psychographic and a demographic, right? Worry only about the metrics of reach and frequency are now gone. So it doesn't matter that 20,000 people heard it. It matters now how many of those actually gave a damn that you said it, right? And that it actually matters in their lives. Sure, that's fine. You can do something that you can present them something that might be useful or valuable or needed in their life or utilized, right? But have you actually gotten to them, like I'm saying, gone like across to them? So advertisers still need to meet these basic metrics, as I said there, but they become more increasingly willing to sacrifice a wide-reaching advert for more meaningful metrics, such as engagement and interactions, right? So important. We have obviously the advert. It's again a lot more difficult than just saying it on paper, like here in black and white. Engagement has to be built up, and relationships have to be built up between a brand and its customers, right? Likes are one thing, but it's a very small form of interaction, right? And engagement is like when someone comments or shares, right? Specifically. So radio is an intimate medium, works on two levels. First is the relationship, obviously, between the listener and the station brand. And the second one is now between the listener and the presenter, right? Not now, that has always been. So the presenters have become more central to attracting and retaining listeners. And this is heightened by the explosion of the use of influencers. Let me just say that as a back end of that statement, right, is that radio has become extremely personality driven, right? Which means that we don't have any more commentators. We have personalities that should be people that we can expect our listeners to connect to and be the reason why they're tuning in alongside with obviously music, etc., right? Okay, an integrated radio campaign where a presenter aligns themselves with a brand, talks about the brand on air, and then engages further with the brand through social media, live activations. Very attractive to most advertisers because it's the whole package, right? Enables them to secure additional integrated value for their campaign more effectively. Buying them like a separate media campaigns or trying to connect the two together. They have the choice of only making it digital. They have the choice of buying an entire activation package. A lot of money being spent, but a lot of deliverables are expected to be met, you know? So the availability, or should I say the ability for presenters to connect with listeners 24/7 has contributed hugely to the popularity of integrated radio campaigns, right? So you put something out on the net, like you are also responsible, one as a station, but two obviously as a brand ambassador, to make sure that if you are seeking to interact with and you are presenting a call to action, right? You're saying like comment here, do this here, or let me know what you think, or whatever it may be, or tell me where you think I am, etc., etc. If it's a competition, I don't know, right? Then we would like the presenter or whoever is asking that particular question, ideally the presenter, right? Or that asking for what is it, procuring for some kind of interaction, man, then they must do something about it. As it like can't be stagnant. It's really annoying. You know, to have someone post a question, people are answering in droves, hundreds, and and no acknowledgement from the radio station itself. It doesn't have to be from the presenter, but there should be a social media department, a digital department that does take care of kind of like a systematic interactions, right? Okay, with whatever it is that's going on online, right? That's how engagement, right, and interaction actually then is it flourishes, right? Some attention to, some acknowledgement to those particular listeners. Anyway, so what marketer would not want to extend listener engagement with their brand across the day, the week, or the year. And these are always on campaigns. That's what they call. South African stations are very flexible regarding how they allow brands to engage with their audience. So most stations allow the brand or brands to play a central role in the primetime live content or in primetime live content. So, for example, on your breakfasts or drives, right? Does the lack of focus on fiercely protecting content make for a worse listening experience for South Africans? Not really, because again, at the end of the day, the station must now it's now fully adapted, and it is again, as you say, flexible with expert professionals that know how to be able to control and manage a relationship and obviously integration across what is expected of them in terms of outputs, as well as also manage and control the involvement, right? The investment and involvement of that particular customer and product or service, right? So do integrated campaigns make for a poor listening experience? No, they don't. Again, it becomes more holistic and there's more dimensions, right? It just depends on obviously if you have just like anything in radio, if you've made the decision to, for example, have a great content piece for the wrong audience, it's of no use, right? If you have a great content piece, but it's the wrong time of the day, it's of no use. A great content piece, but it's 2 weeks too late, it's of no use, right? So if you don't know how to create and construct something at the right time, with the right place, with the right people, etc., it's going to be rubbish, right? So like most things in a creative environment, this depends entirely on the quality of the content around which the campaign is built. Campaign is a conceptualized and implemented something by somebody who does not understand what listeners are looking for. If that's the case, should I say, it will definitely fail, right? Okay, as well as the other things that I've just said are criteria for. Just drink some water, please. Right. So we hear these campaigns all the time. How they make it to air, I never, I'm not being judgmental, but come on, man. If there's a quality control process, then how did it make it there? There were so many people that agreed to the wrong, to making the wrong decision. Then that makes no sense. Clients or the agencies insist that their listeners answer boring product related questions or that presenters must endorse a service that does not match with the personal, obviously their personal and organic choices, right? Which again, we said before, as brand ambassadors, just does not work, right? And does not actually, it rarely even happens. Unless genuinely the radio station and their personality are just money um whores. I'm sorry to say it, but that's the only word I can think of, man. And I'm not calling them a bad thing, man. That's just what they're called. All right. Anyway, greedy. And that is something that does happen. Okay. A campaign conceptualized by people with extensive radio content experience, and who understand how to retain a listener. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Can be hugely successful, not just for the advertiser, but for also that radio station. Okay. So a well thought out integrated radio campaign can obviously add to a listener's experience of what it is that they are, the experience of like just enjoying the radio station as a product and a part of their lifestyle. Digital integration, and we were going to go here with earned and paid, etc., etc. Digital and social media have increasingly become popular ways for marketers and their brands to reach audiences. South Africa has the sixth highest rate of internet usage in the world. That is insane. That's crazy. I would have not known that. We expected that number. With the average person spending more than 8 hours per day online and approximately 23 million people on social media, according to Business Tech. Um, to be confirmed. That just sounds ridiculous. 8 hours a day online. But anyway, there. So naturally, a client with a product or service to sell would want to ensure that their presence is obviously somewhere where they can be seen. Digital integration, radio stations, like any business, have a number of digital and social media tools and platforms available to them to use. And they use social media platforms, obviously, to communicate with audiences, to build a brand, loyal communities, etc., etc. That obviously the people are active, interactive, they invested in, they kind of trust, I would suppose, and I'll say that really, really with a pinch of salt when it comes to social media. But if you are linked to a brand that is already credible, or is trustworthy, or is has a good reputation, these things are true. The image on the next slide lists the type of digital media that we can get, and this you've seen before: owned, earned and paid for. Something that we create, something that is shared, and then something that is paid for, so sponsored, and money is actually spent. I'm not going to go through the stuff that I've already covered in previous lessons, right? So again, here is just once again the owned digital media, where and in summation, just as a recap to something that's relevant for what we can use today in airtime. We can host, so we know so many people visit our site, or so many people are on our social media profiles, etc., etc. This is owned media. We own those spaces, and so we can allow for branding and advertising, etc., to reside on our platforms, right? And so again, we can obviously reach different parts or groups of our particular audiences, depending on what it is and how it is that we, so what it is and how it is that that particular content or that product or brand or whatever it is relevant to that particular part of that particular listener's lifestyle, right? With earned media, as you know, that's when someone shares something. So it's hosted on a different site. It's word of mouth, like social media use is growing obviously rapidly. 5 million new users between 2018 and 2019. A little bit of a, sorry, excuse me for that. Right. And the average South African, once again, spends almost 3 hours per day looking at their feeds. The other one was obviously just in terms of being on the net, right? Just so that we don't have a um, misconception of what might be here and what might not be true, and contradictory to the previous statements, right? But earned is obviously, again, when someone specifically does share. If we look at paid digital media, that is us constructing a digital strategy for something that we want to advertise across the board, even beyond our own followers and our own reach, right? So we would go and then construct, again, very detailed how obviously this particular obviously marketing plan, which I'm saying digital marketing campaign, will roll out, well, in terms of days, times, hashtags, platforms, and then obviously the content in between. And you'll see now that when we move on, right? It's so this, remember this? Yep, it all looks familiar, right? Just remember that here we're looking at things that cost for us, or pay per click on the campaigns. And it's always advised to do things with a much smaller budget, so that you can go and customize it. You tweak it every single day. You're watching it throughout the day, seeing what is working, what it's not. If it's a call to action, share some information. Remember the Poppy Act, that type of stuff. Obviously comment here, do this, share this to your story. Make sure that you tag, and answer, and whatever it is. You've seen all of this type of stuff, as you've come across your own feeds, right? Over and over and over again. And once again, not going to go into it, just because we went severely and to great detail, right? In particularly previous lesson, that the three particular previous lessons: earned, owned, and paid digital media, right? That also goes for these particular pages. If you do recall, there was, the hypothetical Facebook post with a community size of 330,000, 5,000 Rand per post. And then obviously in this case, it's just again, integrated campaigns. This is a hypothetical, could be used for paid digital media over there across different platforms. And then looking at those packages, it'll cost from 75,000. Then it goes from top shelf to like something that's a little bit more affordable. And I use that very, very lightly. 38,000 over there. Again, all this stuff you can remember. Yeah, obviously the different plans. Again, with this particular, I think this is celebrating a particular skincare product or like a beauty salon, that type of stuff, um, or just rehashed there. Okay, right. There's some external links that you can go and have a look at. Again, just as a it's a rehash, so genuinely, I'm not going to go through it. If there are any questions, do always reach out to me. 367 in your book. Just give me a second. I'm just getting that open. Nearly there. I think that we've actually seen this before as well. 367. Oh yeah, no, this is exactly question number 3. Okay, so we have covered that in the previous lesson. In terms of, I've read out the entire activity. Remember, all answers to all activities are at the end of the book. So please go and check your answers there. I'm going to leave it at that for this week. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tolerating the coughing, etc. Be well.